Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is Morning Somewhere for October 14th, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns. Sitting right over there, she might be the imposter. It's Ashley Burns. Everybody say hi to Ashley.
Happy Monday. Welcome to a whole new week.
Something was a little off on that intro.
Yeah, that was a little bit different.
You want to explain what that is?
A little bit different. So, sort of spur of the moment yesterday, we had a Q&A up for our patrons and thought one of the questions was, would we ever take drops from fans? And we said, yeah, sure, we'll take or not drops, but the shouts. The shouts from fans. And we said, sure. We set up an email address, which is Bernie.
No, I'm not saying that.
Why not?
Because it's for the patrons, right?
Okay.
Got to slog through these things and see. So if you want to listen to the Q&A from yesterday, if you want the email, and then you can submit a Morning Somewhere shout. Now listen.
Yes.
This was by Caboose1066 who sent this in.
Thank you for sending that in, Caboose.
Jumped on it immediately, was ready to do it. This is a request we've had a few different times. I don't know how we feel about it. We'll see how it goes. Like, for instance, on this one, I got some notes. Can we do some?
No, come on, be nice. Be nice. You've had so many episodes to practice.
Bring your A game. Don't, I want you to stay safe, but you might blow out your voice doing it, but go for it.
Look.
Good morning somewhere comes from the gut. Comes from the chest. Morning somewhere!
Look, Finn and Blaine have set the guest shout bar pretty high.
They are, yes. And a lot of the other guests who were just like, I don't know what to. So. Hey, happy Monday, everybody. So we'll see how that goes. No guarantees, and they won't be all the time.
Bernie, there was a lot of people asking over the weekend. They were very invested in whether or not you were going to be able to watch your University of Texas Longhorns game this weekend.
Morning somewhere! See, I feel like it needs a little bit of... there's like a little British coming in there, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. All right. Yes, my game.
Moving on to the game. People were wondering if you found a way to watch your game from the UK. Were you able to get it done? Yes, you were.
I was able to watch it on one specific TV. I couldn't watch it on most of my devices. I had to install an app that was installable through the OS of the TV. It wasn't available on my Apple TV box, my Xbox, my PlayStation, none of those things. I could have watched it on my phone, I guess, sat there and watched it on my phone. I'm just not going to do that.
Well, this is something that we deal with as sort of people out of our space, out of our place, out of country, and that is that sometimes we lose the best of everything. So, for example, you'll see there's some shows that'll pop up on Amazon Prime, but they've sold them to a different network overseas. We have a U.S. Prime account.
It's awful. It's awful
everything.
All the way around.
Right. But if we're overseas, we lose anything that's licensed elsewhere, and then we can't even get it on that other network because we have U.S. accounts.
And we could
can't download the UK apps if you have a U.S. Xbox account. We could get around it by making a UK Xbox account, but let's not talk about that right now.
It's just one of those things where if you miss any of the checkboxes, you're disqualified completely.
Right.
You have to have all the checkboxes checked in order to watch this thing. But I watched it.
To jump through enough
I watched
hoops.
the Texas Longhorns defeat the Oklahoma Sooners. It was a rough game. Oklahoma was their offense was struggling, and the Texas defense was great.
But it didn't look like that at the beginning, did it?
Texas offense was also struggling. Or the quarterback had been out for a few games when there's only been 5 played. And it looked rough coming out Ewers. And there was, my group chat was like, they need to bench him for Manning. Because Texas has on the bench, they have a Manning, which is like of Eli Manning and Peyton Manning, of that heritage. Not either one of their sons. Is that the way to say it?
But it's their nephew, right?
He's neither of their sons.
Their shared nephew.
I don't know.
This sounds like the
painted
beginning.
I painted myself into a grammatical hole. I want to get out of this.
Okay, you got this.
He is not either one of their sons. Wait.
He is not son
because
to
they're
either.
plural, but he's not plural. So he's not either one of their son.
I think you just found a black hole of English grammar.
I don't know what to say there. Anyway, so Manning's sitting on the bench. They didn't put Manning in, and I'm glad they didn't. Arch Manning. They stuck with Ewers, and he did have kind of a rough game, but he found his rhythm, and the Longhorns won. I'm just really happy. Also, people were asking me all week long, Bernie, how the hell can you be a Dodgers fan who's now in the NLCS? Because they pulled it off against the Padres. They won 2 straight and ended up advancing to the National League Championship Series, actually against the New York Mets, the Mets of New York. Other side is Yankees and somebody else.
So
I think it's Cincinnati.
So there's like 2 sort of different Major League Baseball leagues. Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's why they have the World Series. So,
Right, the World Series is just like what, East Coast versus West Coast?
No, most of the like sports leagues in America, they do still call it a league, the American League and the National League, and they used to have very different rules, although they're coming together. The designated hitter was a big contentious thing for a long time, where the pitcher didn't hit.
They would send someone to hit for the pitcher?
They had a dude who would come in and he would hit for the pitcher, but that has been relaxed. The National League now has the designated hitter as well. But they have the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference in the NBA, the National Basketball Association. In the NFL, they have the AFC and the NFC. So they have this really. And really, during the regular season, it means you don't typically play teams from the other side. You're not guaranteed to play teams in the other conference or the other league.
So does
Although
that come
you do
in
sometimes.
what, playoffs or championship games or what?
No, sometimes you just play them. Like the crazy thing about Texas Longhorns season this year, they're in the SEC, but there's always some teams in college football that they'll play regardless of whether or not they're in their conference. We used to always play the Texas A&M Aggies, always, but they were a conference game as well. So now we're playing them as part of the SEC. We always play Oklahoma, though. We've always been in the same conference as them as long as I've been following it. Although, no, because they were in the Big Eight back when we were in the Southwest Conference, and they played all the time anyway. Anyway, conferences are kind of weird. It doesn't really matter. It's the pathway to get to the grand championship, essentially.
Got it.
Yeah, like you wouldn't have two teams from the same conference in the championship game, like Super Bowl. You would never have, for instance, the San Francisco 49ers playing the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. They just can't do that.
You're right. That would be super weird.
Well, because they're both NFC teams, so they just can't do that, which is weird because people would really like a San Francisco, Dallas Cowboys, or the Washington Commanders, whatever they're called now. They used to be called the Redskins. Thank God they changed that name. You would never see Washington play Dallas in the Super Bowl, even though that would be a huge deal. That would be a huge deal. So I actually don't know who the other team is that's going against the Yankees. I think at the end of the day, though, the Yankees and the Dodgers are kind of in the same boat where in a league, in a sport with no salary cap, it's just who can spend the most money. I get it. People are upset with me for rooting for the Dodgers when now they're just like digging deep into their pockets and buying teams, essentially, building a huge roster, and it's working well for them. I don't know what to say about that. That's a problem with baseball,
So baseball has no salary cap.
They made a whole movie about that, as a matter of fact.
And there's what? The Dodgers, which are in LA, and the Yankees, which are in New York. Look, they have to blow the salary cap. You know what the cost of living in those areas is?
I mean, really, if you're going to move a player there, yeah, sure. They're not moving to Minnesota or whatever.
I can't even afford a house.
The ALCS for your 2024 Major League Baseball season is the New York Yankees versus the Guardians of Cleveland, also formerly known as the Cleveland Indians. They could have, I think, been okay to keep their name, but goddamn, their logo was awful.
So did they just go ahead and buy their own, get the team from the Galaxy?
What's that? Right, they have a tree guy,
Guardians,
and a raccoon.
formerly of the Galaxy.
Everyone who is a Cleveland fan heard me say Cincinnati. They're like, "Fuck you, Burns, Cincinnati, give me a break."
This is bullshit.
So that kind of leads me into why I root for the Dodgers. I talked about this on the Patreon, but I'll briefly talk about it now. I was a Houston Oilers fan growing up and a huge sports fan as a kid. I love the NFL. I love the Oilers. I was so deep into it, like one of those people who thought you got to go to every game, you got to watch every down. Like I watched every down of what was the greatest comeback in the history of the NFL against my team. The Buffalo Bills were down 35-3 at halftime in the playoffs, came back and beat the Houston Oilers 41-38. It was horrifying to watch that.
That sounds like a bloodbath of a second half.
And I was very loyal. I was very into it. Knew all the players. Haywood Jeffries, Warren Moon, Earl Campbell. I just loved them all. And the Oilers just packed up shop and left town. And they took the logo with them and took the colors. And it was a really hard split with the owner of the team, Bud Adams. And it was at a time in my life when I was just going into college, and it made me super cynical about it. Also, personal stuff at the time. I was a Notre Dame kid growing up, and I was going to go to Notre Dame, and everything I did in my life was geared towards going to Notre Dame, and then I couldn't afford to go to Notre Dame. So then I went to the UT, and UT had a tremendous season, my first season there, and I just became an NCAA fan and loved the Longhorns. And I actually got really cynical about sports for a really long period of time. This whole thing of like, you got to be loyal to the team and everything. I just felt like after that, I was like, fuck, they're millionaires. Fuck them. Playing a game.
They have no loyalty. Why should I?
Fast forward like 2 decades later, my kids like had no exposure to sports up until they were like 10. Of like they played sports, but like we didn't do like
follow
spectator sports. Like we didn't go to games and stuff like that. So I thought, we got to get into this. So we lived in LA for a summer, and I took them to a bunch of Dodgers games, and we became Dodgers fans. So that's why we did it. So suck it, losers. We're in the NLCS, and you're not with our fucking $1 billion team. So that's the long story of how I became a Dodgers fan.
Well, I think it is lovely. They seem to be doing well, and it seems like you're in a good position to be rooting for them in the final championship game.
You should be a sportscaster.
I know everything there is to know about.
So
sports.
likely, though, the World Series, if I had to bet, I would bet on the New York Yankees versus the Dodgers. And people that might cause some changes in baseball. It might cause some changes. People might not like
Go for that salary cap?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, your sports teams are not the only ones who had a great weekend, Bernie. You know who else had a great weekend?
Who had a great weekend?
SpaceX.
Dude, that was incredible.
Right. We're talking about space again. Welcome to Morning Somewhere, the space podcast about space. So this is really cool. They did, this is the first time they caught a rocket booster. So basically, they launched Starship and made a goal of this being the first time they were going to catch the first stage booster, the Super Heavy or whatever it's called. Yeah, so basically the booster came back, and it's the first time that's come back. It burned down to this big tower, and then just these arms reached out and just gave it a hug. And it's the first time that's ever happened. I was watching the video of it, and it looked to me like I was a little worried at first because it seemed kind of wobbly in the air there. It's like backing its butt in towards this tower, and then the whole tower kind of looked like it was on fire, but then the arms go and just caught this. This is a 200 and something foot long booster. It's huge. It's putting out so much fire, and it just goes, we caught you.
It is a massive vehicle. It is incredible that they caught it, and they catch it on these hooks. I'm like you. I didn't even know that they were attempting this until I saw I have to say it, very inspiring and exhilarating video of like the people cheering for it landing. It actually catches onto hooks on the side of the tower. It navigates to that level. Look, coming down.
Can I just tell you, we have these little hand vacuums, like hand vacs at the house. Like,
I know exactly what you're going to talk about.
And they've got these little like holes on the back of them so that you can just theoretically just go ahead and slip that hand vac back into its mount, right where it'll start charging again. With two hands, being a giant in comparison to this thing, I cannot hook that thing for the life of me. They hooked a 200-foot rocket ship.
That's a very specific example. As a more general one, I would say they're able to catch this rocket, this gigantic thing. They're able to catch it on hooks coming back from space. And yet today, you will not be able to plug in your USB right on like 5 tries. I don't know what the fuck it is about that. I know it's a meme, but it's so goddamn true. Why can I not put that thing in right the first time?
You know what? I think it's because the doubt is built in.
No, it's something more than that.
I feel like
it's magic.
I feel like I never push it correctly because I'm assuming that I've put it in wrong, and I don't want to push it too hard and damage the bits inside whatever. So then I'll try it. It doesn't work. I try it the other way. It definitely doesn't work. And I go, okay, I had it the first time. And then I have the confidence to just go ahead and push that thing in.
No. Channel that rage of doing that when you plug in your USB for the 15th fucking time. Channel that rage if you ever send in a Morning Somewhere shot. Here, I'll do it for you here. You can channel it right here.
Hey, we're recording the podcast. Shut up.
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because just plug the fuck in, you fucking thing! There, just channel that.
So this is an amazing accomplishment, in my opinion, and it's thrown into complete contrast by the fallout of the related company, Tesla. They had the robot event last week. We talked about that, and they were showing off their Optimus robot, which is not robotic at all at the current moment. It was discovered, or rather has finally gotten around, that the robots, the bipedal robots that they showed off, these Optimus guys, and they had pouring drinks and an after party and so on, they were not
and having real conversations with people on the fly with no delay.
Right. We're not, in fact, in any way animatronic or self-driven. They were
autonomous. Self-driven is a good way to say it.
Yeah, right. So full self-driving is not yet available in these robots. It turns out they were basically digital marionettes. They had people doing mocap and remotely having the conversations. So while being a concept of a robot, we're not yet an actual robot in any way.
I didn't say anything about that at the time. I don't think you did either, but we knew that because we had seen before, every time they had shown the Tesla robots, they showed backstage of people controlling them with like full motion capture suits, which, by the way, is a cool application for a robot.
It absolutely is.
That's not a bad thing. But a lot of people were assuming they were like self-driven, fully autonomous. I didn't think that.
Well, it's almost like they had disclaimers at this event that the AI was limited and so on. But I think they were trying to sell the vision, right?
What? At a Tesla event, selling the vision to come? I don't want to talk too much about Tesla today. They did have a 6% drop in their stock after the event on Friday. So that didn't go great. I did read a comment, though, that I wanted to reiterate the point that we made before. This is from Indo Ninja. This was on Friday. They wrote, I bought my Tesla in 2019. Musk was advertising a full self-driving package for $7,000 more. I got an email saying if I upgraded to that the following year, I would likely be able to send my car out as an Uber to make money for me. Dude has been lying about self-driving for almost as long as he has had national attention. Edit. Guys, I did not pay for the upgrade. Welcome to the suck, Indo Ninja. Yeah, everyone's just saying, you bastard, you paid for that money and gave Elon money. Yeah, we've all been dealing with it. You know, if you've been dealing with Tesla for any amount of time, you've been disappointed by their pie in the sky, pay us money now, you know, we'll deliver this stuff eventually. He's running out of runway, basically, on this stuff, I think.
Yeah, but Tesla, not the only one having a bit of a troubled weekend. Bernie, you know who else has had a troubled weekend? The Joker sequel. The Joker sequel has had an 81% drop at the box office. This is one of the biggest drops that we've ever seen at the box office from its opening weekend to the second weekend. Topped only, as far as we know.
Wait, let me guess. Can I guess? Biggest drop ever from one weekend to the next. Man, I don't even have a guess. What would it be?
Gigli.
Oh, wow. The Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez.
Yes, that one had an 82% drop. However, Joker is in good company with Halloween Ends, which had an 80% drop. The Marvels, which had a 78% drop. Morbius, which had a 74% drop. And Megalopolis with a 73% drop.
Well, Megalopolis, I think, these are percentages, right? So it's like Megalopolis already started very low, you know?
Yes, but and yet managed to still have a 73% drop from its first to second weekend. So this is a pretty big deal.
How much has Joker 2 made so far? Does it say there?
In the domestic box office, it has now made $51 million.
Ooh,
Wow. International box office continues to shore it up. Obviously, they don't get nearly as much of the revenue share back with the international box office, but it has been shoring it up with more than double what the domestic box office has been doing. So internationally, it's made $113 million for a total worldwide so far of $165 million. That is still not enough to make back its production budget, never mind marketing budget and so on. So with that kind of drop, I don't know if it's going to get there.
Yeah, I don't know either. And man, Morbius keeps coming up, and Morbius seems
Morbin time!
It felt like a whole big nothing when they did it. And it's
do you remember Morbius had that very special story too, where people memed it so hard that Sony thought there was legitimate interest in it and brought it back to theaters, and then it flopped for a second time.
Yeah, but that's fair. I mean, like, there's always a meme movie, and you never know. They try to capture like snakes on a plane or something, or the Minions kids, yeah,
or Barbenheimer. You never know.
You never know.
If people memeing are memeing good-naturedly or mean-spiritedly, you just never know. And sometimes even the mean-spirited ones will go drop an ironic buck on the box office, like the Emoji Movie.
We learned that lesson early on. Attention does not always equal action. And one of the things we learned early on never to do was we would put up a couple different kinds of shirts when we were a smaller company. Go, which shirt do you want us to make next? And like 12, 15,000 people would vote for one shirt. It's like, holy shit, multiply that by $10 a shirt. Oh my God, this can be amazing. Nope. It was like,
And then they wouldn't buy the shirt.
no, because it costs nothing to vote for it or whatever. Also, voting for that kind of thing is bad because you're showing people the other designs, and when they vote for it, they're not going to go buy the other shirt. They're just mad about the shirt that didn't get made, or it got made at some other
Right.
point.
You're like, but I wanted this one.
Yeah, so that attention does not always equal action. Not always.
Right. And it's interesting too, because I've now heard from a couple people that they went and saw the Joker movie and they thought it was fine. They said there was good parts and bad parts to it, but it seems like it's getting a bit of a dog pile for not being like the first movie.
I'm still interested. I want to see it. Although I heard there's no original songs in it, which is fucking wild.
You know what though? I've heard the same thing. I'm not going to judge it too hard because I really there are jukebox musicals like that I've really enjoyed.
Say the name.
Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge is great. Maybe
Fucking
that's what they
hit.
were going for.
Absolute hit. Fever Dream, wonderful movie. I love it so much. I have a soft spot for Baz Luhrmann though, so that's not that surprising.
Wear sunscreen. You know how many people thought that was Kurt Vonnegut, by the way?
What?
A lot of people thought the Baz Luhrmann song about wear sunscreen, people thought that was Kurt Vonnegut that wrote that.
Why?
It was attributed to him at a commencement speech. Man, this is pulling a memory from like 20 years ago. But yeah, a lot of people thought the Baz Luhrmann song was inspired by a commencement speech made by Kurt Vonnegut. It was not. Isn't that weird? Kurt Vonnegut, the author. You know
Fascinating.
Who that is.
The guy
Slaughterhouse-Five
who wrote Fight Club and so on.
No, that's Chuck Palahniuk.
Never mind. I was picturing it totally different. I was like, he did a commencement speech? That's interesting.
Kurt Vonnegut writing Fight Club. That's fucking awesome. He wrote the X-Men. Anyway,
My bad.
While we were talking about, voting for things you think you want and then don't actually want, I'm now dealing with that because I got super excited because one of my favorite games of all time just went through a complete remaster for modern consoles. It's a game I would list it easily in my top 5 of all time. It's Dead Rising. Greatest Xbox 360 game, I think. It was incredible. It would seem like a cult hit to me. Honestly, I would say that game is important in history. If you were an Achievement Hunter fan at Rooster Teeth, there was a lot of stuff associated with that, which got us into achievements, that and Left 4 Dead, where the early ideas of Achievement Hunter and doing that stuff became important to us. But love the game, loved my memories of playing the game.
We're so excited. You were very excited for this remaster to come out. I remember it was early in September. You went and tried to download it, and you were furious. So where is this game? We looked it up, and
I feel like they hide when they offer something for sale in the Xbox store. I'm going to say this: I think they hide the release dates. Like you can't. It's hard to find it, and you can buy it, and they go. As soon as you buy it, they go, great, you can't download this. It'll be available on this date.
When it's out.
It's like, where was that information when I went to hit the buy button?
I feel like they do that with movies sometimes too. They'll note that they're a pre-order, but not when you're actually going to get the thing.
And then you find out a human is running them behind the scenes, the robots. It's all smoke and mirrors.
It's all just a Microsoft employee
down.
fucking with you directly through the UI.
That Falcon Heavy, that was a scale model. But the problem with this was I got exactly what I wanted, and I didn't want it. You know what I mean? I'm playing a game from 2006, and it's very faithful to the original one, and you're just losing about 20 years of refinement of how, cameras work in video games, game mechanics, everything else. You're taking a step back and you're like, this was better in my memory. A guy who's a great writer, Tycho from Penny Arcade, he once wrote about playing a remake of Punch-Out, how much he liked the remake of Punch-Out because it didn't play like the original. It played like how he remembered the original playing.
Right.
And I thought that was a great comment of why the Punch-Out remake was so good.
I think that's actually one of the reasons that remakes and remasters have a very tricky line to walk is they want to, be faithful. They're remaking or remastering the original, but they can't be too faithful because the way that the game isn't the way we remember the game. One of the best tricks I've seen was when they remade or remastered the Wind Waker, the Legend of Zelda game. They had these screens, like tube TVs, on display at E3, showing what the original Wind Waker looked like. Because if you just went and you saw the remake, you'd go, yeah, it looks the way it looked. It does not look the way it looked. It looks so much better. But at the time you were first playing Wind Waker, you thought, oh my God, this looks incredible. So they had to make it look
480i resolution.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'd look at the remaster and go, yeah, I mean, this looks just the same. No, it fucking doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And this remaster, the Dead Rising remaster, does have quality of life improvements, right? Just it's too loyal in some unfortunately outdated ways.
It has some unforgivable sins about video games. One is the cutscenes are just like, they're deathly slow, and you're just like, please, I'm
begging you.
Being gracious by watching this cutscene. Just hurry up and get through this. And it's so long. It also has camera issues, which in a third-person game, if you have camera issues, that's just like, to me, it's unforgivable. It's just like, it just makes you angry at the game itself, especially when you're fighting and stuff like that. And the other thing it has, which I haven't experienced in a long time, is there's a lot of collectibles in this game, and you can run through. It has collectibles that if you miss them on your run through, like you miss them at a certain time and you just walk past them, it goes into a lockable area and then you can't get them back.
Ooh,
that's unforgivable to me, because then you're like 99 items in, you're like, where's this last item? It's like, oh, it's in an area that you had to collect before it got locked off as part of the story. It's like, fuck you. There's no way. And the fact that they didn't like correct that's such of an era back then. And now it's like crazy that would be left in the game today. This is a little bit different because you can do like runs through it, but the runs aren't like FTL or like, some roguelike game.
Right. It's not an hour.
It is a couple
run.
Days of playing, for an average human.
That said, in spite of your frustrations, you have been continuing to play it.
Yeah, it's a fun walk down memory lane, but it is a memory of how far we've come as well, which is an important mental exercise to go through as well.
Yeah.
But if you love Dead Rising, it is extraordinarily faithful. Take that as you will.
for better and for worse.
Yeah, it's not like our upcoming fan-submitted morning somewhere else. Not quite as
They're all
faithful.
from the belly, from the gut, and
all
the
right.
heart.
Well, speaking of them, who do we have to thank for today's episode? Ashley?
Today, I would like to thank Scott Stevenson and Frank TJ Mackey for sponsoring this episode of our show at patreon.com/morningsomewhere. Thank you both so much for sponsoring this episode.
All right, well, that does it for us today, Monday, October 14th. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you all will be here as well.
Bye, everybody.